Hello, good evening everyone, and welcome to the 2026 election hustings here in St John for Senators. I'm Hannah Shelswell, and I'm going to be taking us through the proceedings until 9 o'clock this evening. Thank you so much for making the time to be live in the room and on the live stream. We are live streaming to the Vote.je YouTube channel, so thank you for being with us. You can access the closed captions this evening, which are being generated, and you can turn those on by clicking the button at the bottom of your screen. A recording will also be uploaded to the Vote.je website after the event. Okay, I'm sure that you are aware, but you can only vote for 9 of the candidates who've put themselves forward for this role, and there are 9 island seats available. We have 17 candidates. I'm going to read out their names in alphabetical order. They are not sitting in alphabetical order. We've drawn lots because each time we like to mix up the order so everyone has a different opportunity to start with their speeches and answering questions. So we have Martin Aliga, Independent. Tom Binney, Independent. Mark Boliat, Independent. Alan Brecken, Independent. Carl Bush, Independent. Guy DeFay, Independent. Lyndon Farnham, Independent. Ian Gorst, Independent. And Serena Kirsten Guthrie, Independent. Mary Lahegara, Independent. Alan Lepavu, Independent. Steve Luce, Independent. Alan McLean, Independent. We have Sam Mezek, Reform Jersey. Helen Miles, Independent. Elaine Miller, who is Independent. And also Bernard Place, who is Independent. So the candidates this evening have agreed that they're going to deliver a speech for 2 minutes, and then we'll have a time for questions. What we are asking is that we would like to prioritise parishioners of St John this evening to ask questions, and also we won't be taking any questions from candidates or from elected members either. And I'll confirm what we need to do later in terms of all of that. Okay, so let's not waste any more time. We're going to start at this end of the table. I will set the timer. Ian, just bear with me one moment. And you are going to hear 2 bells this evening. So you will hear one when they've got 30 seconds left, and then I will do a double ding when it's time, and they do have to stop talking at that point. Okay, Ian, we're all ready. So Ian Gorst.
Good evening. I'm Ian Gorst, an independent candidate, and I'm standing so that I can continue to be a strong voice for Jersey over the next 4 years, defending our interests, promoting our economy, and building a sustainable future for our community. These are challenging times, and they call for experienced, calm, and serious leadership. As Minister for External Relations, I've built strong relationships with governments in the UK, Europe, and further afield. This has enabled me to support our financial services, agriculture, dairy, digital, and creative industries to grow and find new markets. I also want to drive forward our competitiveness strategy so that we deliver economic growth and embrace innovation in the face of increased global competition. A strong and diversified economy supports local jobs and pays for good public services. In recent years, government has grown at an unsustainable rate. I have been, and I always will be, a voice for restraint to control public spending. Government needs to be an enabler, interfering less frequently in our lives and focusing on important frontline services, including health, education, and policing. To ease cost of living pressures, I would freeze duties, raise tax thresholds, and increase allowances so that you keep more of the money you earn, as I did when I was Treasury Minister. We must continue to promote consumer choice, including by finally delivering a budget supermarket. Jersey has always adapted to changing times. With strong, effective, and proven leadership, we will and can do so again. I ask for one of your votes on June the 7th. Thank you.
Hello.
Elaine Miller.
Hello, my name's Elaine Miller. I've had the privilege of representing St John as a deputy since 2022. Before being elected, I was a Jersey advocate and the first woman to hold the office of Viscount. Since then, I've been Treasury Minister and Minister for Social Security. I've shown that I can get things done, and I've worked hard to deliver positive results. I brought the proposition that reinstated the role of senator. I reduced the cost of GP visits by £20 and increased pensioner benefits. I addressed cost of living issues by increasing the community cost bonus and by short-term reductions in social security. And I've supported the important work to help our financial services industry remain competitive. The cost of living remains a challenge, and I'll look to find ways to support those who struggle most, including childcare support. Alongside financial services, we must enable all businesses to thrive and grow our economy. I'll aim to reduce complex regulation and to promote growth by removing some of the barriers to startups. St John is a prime example of how small businesses can succeed and really contribute to the health of a community. It's important that we continue to control government spending and remove inefficiency. This will help us rebuild our reserves for future resilience. I promote a population strategy that plans for the needs of young and old into the future, including education, careers, health and housing, particularly for older people. Above all, we have to focus on finding solutions that are right for Jersey. I will continue working hard to deliver effective results that benefit our community and our economy. I will always put the interests of Jersey first. I am truly grateful to all of you who voted for me as one of your deputies, and I hope that you will vote for me as one of your senators. Thank you.
Alan McLean.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jersey isn't working. People know it, they feel it, and they're paying for it every single day. The weekly shop costs more. Housing costs more. Frankly, everything costs more. People are working harder than ever, yet too many feel they are falling behind. And while families tighten their belts, government is doing the opposite. Bigger, more expensive, more bureaucratic. Last year alone, government spent £118 million more than it earned. That is not sustainable. There is no magic money tree. There is only your money. I served as Economic Development Minister during the global financial crisis. We merged the ports and saved £1 million per annum of taxpayers' money. We created Digital Jersey. We backed local enterprise. We improved connectivity by introducing EasyJet and re-establishing the Heathrow route. I later served as Treasury Minister. We controlled spending, balanced budgets, and helped more students access university. We need more of that approach now. We need discipline. We need restructuring. Government should focus on cutting waste. It must be creative and adopt technology, smarter, faster public services, not simply growing bigger. We need a government that understands how to build a strong economy, removes unnecessary regulations, red tape and bureaucracy, encourages investment. A strong economy is not a luxury. It's what creates good jobs and pays the bills. It gives young people a future. I'm not standing because I need a political career. I'm returning to politics because I care deeply about this island. We need a Jersey that works for everyone, a more affordable Jersey. I'm confident that the best days can still lie ahead, but only if we have the courage, discipline, and leadership to make the right long-term decisions now. My name is Alan McLean. Please consider me for one of your votes. Thank you.
Mary Lahegara.
Good evening. Born and raised in Jersey, my parents were tenant farmers at Herop Farm down the road, where my brother and I were born. A career path in financial roles followed by 25 years in policing, cross-section of roles, ranks and responsibilities. I was the first female inspector in Jersey. Joining the States Assembly in 2018, working in scrutiny as the Health and Social Security Panel Chair, we delivered many reviews, including mental health, securing funding for a crisis bed at Orchard House. The last 2 years, I've served as the Justice and Home Affairs Minister, delivering violence against women and girls recommendations and other public safety laws. I believe that team working is one of my strengths. In my policing career, working in partnership with public and other agencies, I led teams to deliver results in community initiatives, to commanding critical and major incidents. I've employed this collaborative approach in my political roles, both in scrutiny and as a minister, working with teams to improve public services and advancing legislative reforms. Cost of living is clearly an issue. Let's start working on our resilience and ways of resolving this long term. Brexit, the pandemic and global uncertainty clearly require holistic approaches. Whilst the finance industry provides a huge amount of our revenue and needs to be supported, we need to be more self-sufficient, appreciating that we can't fully provide all of our needs. We need to work on what we can achieve. Produce more, export less, which will reduce plastic transport costs, improving the environment. Support on-island upskilling programs and continual development using further and higher education is necessary so that we can promote on-island talent. We need to get our young people back. We need to say yes when they ask to come back for employment, not say no because they lack experience. Let's say yes and we will develop them forward. Please consider me for one of your votes. Thank you.
Martin Aliga.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. So yesterday, a friend of mine sent me a LinkedIn pointing to a message written by Carl Palos, a partner around in Jersey here, who's raised a very interesting point, suggesting that young people find Jersey very boring. And somehow I think I agree with him. Having served in the Children's Service Department with young people here for the last 10 years, a number of young people are being said to be leaving Jersey for wherever they want to go. But one thing I'm asking myself, what do these young people have here in Jersey to come back for? If we don't create a Jersey that attracts these young people back home, why should they come back? Look, I am here from Uganda. Every young person everywhere in the world thinks of going somewhere better. And I want to say that not until we create a home that the young people can go wherever, like birds that fly over during summer to another destination during winter, we are not going to have these young people back. So it is my duty and conviction and hope that when you give me your vote, no, don't give me your vote. Please invest your vote in me. Because when you invest your vote in me, you expect a return. Everyone else is asking, give me your vote. Consider your vote for me. I am asking you to invest your vote in me. Why? Because I will have the duty of returning with a report of investment for you. With colleagues, I'll work. Teamwork is the best way to make the dream work. Thank you for coming. I hope you vote for me.
Thank you. Just before we move on to the next person, I can see that there are a number of people standing at the back and to the side. If you'd like a seat, if you've got a spare seat next to you, can you just put your hand up so they know where they can sit if they would like to? There's a seat here, there's some over this side, so please do grab a seat and there's some up there if you would like to. It's totally up to you. Okay, you're all comfortable. Thank you. Guy DeFay.
Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. I'm going to tell you a short story about health. I want to emphasise right up front, it's nothing to do with the current health minister who's sitting right next to me. Back on the first Council of Ministers, we were approached after the annual budget had been approved by the Health Department, who came in to see us for a presentation on the basis we're very sorry, but we forgot to include the IT budget. So we listened to how useful IT could be to the Health Department. You could get x-rays up on the computer equipment. You could check what prescriptions patients were having. We then said, okay, that sounds promising. How much do you want? £12.5 million. About 4 years later, Health Department came back. We're very sorry. £12.5 million wasn't enough. We need another £12.5 million. And although I can't precisely remember the figures, roughly about 4 or 5 years after that, they got another £10 million. £35 million spent on IT. I was recently a domestic carer for my late mother. She began having nightmares in the middle of the night. She was fighting 2 terminal conditions. I thought something was wrong. I consulted the consultants. They said, oh, we didn't know she was taking those strong pills from mental health. Mental health said we didn't know she was taking those strong pills from the cancer people. And there you go. £35 million on equipment supposed to do something, and it failed. This is just one department, and this sort of thing needs to be sorted out. I can help do that.
Tom Binney.
Good evening, everybody. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult to follow that. I've only got 2 minutes, so I've just put in line what I think are the main priorities. I've been in government for 4 years. I've served under 2 governments as Minister of Infrastructure and most recently Minister of Health. I'm pleased to say that the current government, I think, has been stable and has been inclusive. And I think it's treated people well. And I don't mind taking 2 minutes to thank our current Chief Minister for doing a good job. However, I think the next government needs to retain those values, but it certainly needs a change of pace. And it needs a vision. In my view, from what I've seen in the 4 years, Jersey as a whole has become tired and complacent. The rest of the world has moved on very, very quickly, and I don't think we've kept pace. And what I think we need to do, yes, we can be more efficient. It's not going to be as easy as people think, but I think we need to take a business-like approach to the way we go about that. If anybody's read the recent competitive review of the finance sector, you'll see that we've been complacent there too. We need to reboot the finance sector and get on with that very quickly because it's the core of our economy. Health service. I've been there 2 years. I know some of you are still probably getting problems with the service, and I can only apologise, but I can tell you things have changed. We've got a new senior team. We've got more money in the budget. We've got money for digital and money for health prevention. That's work that's ongoing, and I don't mind saying it's going to take another 4 years to get that sorted. But at least I think we'll have that in line for when we open the new hospital. We need to change our planning laws, make them a lot looser. This is controversial, but we need to spend much more money on our town centre to tidy it up, make it attractive to people. We need to put in sports facilities, and we need to kind of improve our connections with Europe. We need to market all that, but we need to do it first. For me, we need to tuck into the strategic reserve. There's no alternative. We've got the confidence to invest that money in other people. We should invest it in ourselves, and we need to get on with that and do it quickly. And it's for those reasons that I'm standing for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Carl Bush.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carl Bush, and I'm standing for Senator. The last time I was here was 6 years ago. I came to the island started coming to the island in 2018, and I brought with me a social enterprise, social inclusion project, and it started here in this very hall. We had tables like this all the way along, and we had people all the way down each side. We had 2 lovely ladies, Margaret and Olive. I don't know whether anyone knows Margaret and Olive. And it was a social inclusion tea dance. Why is social inclusion so important? Social inclusion is directly related to health. If you are socially isolated and you are lonely, it affects your health to the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes per day. That is directly correlated to the health budget, and poor health equates in monetary terms in respect to 1% equals 6 million. So if we have poor health, 1% of that amount is 6 million, which if we had that amount of money, we would be able to proportion it to other services, like the problem with struggling families on the island. I come here with experience from the UK. I held an elected position in local government there, so I do have experience of government. So I'd like you to bear me in mind on the 7th of June.
Thank you. Lyndon Farnham.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lyndon Farnham. I was born here in Jersey. I've lived here all my life. I raised my family here. And I'm standing for election because I care deeply about the kind of island we're shaping for future generations. Around the world, we are seeing economic instability, rising costs, conflict, and pressures on living standards. And we are feeling those pressures too here in Jersey. Since becoming Chief Minister in 2024, I have worked to restore stability across government, strengthen discipline in the management of our public finances, and getting government working together again. And we have made some good progress. We have enabled 153 islanders into home ownership through the newly established First Step scheme, delivered up to £6,000 a year into, for nursery support for 2 to 3 year olds to support young families, completed the rollout of nutritious school meals for every child in state's primary schools. And we are implementing the full 77 recommendations of the Violence Against Women and Girls Task Force report. We must build on this progress to ensure that Jersey once again becomes a place where young islanders can realistically aspire to own a home, raise their families here, and choose to stay because they feel confident about the future. I'm optimistic about Jersey's future because we are a resilient island with enormous strength, a strong community of talented, hard-working people, a successful local economy, a clean and safe environment. But in these challenging times, I believe Jersey needs leadership that is steady, experienced and forward-looking, honest about the challenges, takes responsibility and gets things done. I believe our best years still lie ahead of us if we work hard and have the confidence and determination to build them together. Thank you for all being here this evening. I hope you will consider me for one of your votes, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Helen Miles.
Thank you very much. Good evening, St John. I'm Helen Miles and I'm standing as an independent candidate. My background is in criminal justice with a 30-year career working for Customs and Immigration, the Probation and Aftercare Service and the States of Jersey Police. I was also a founding member of Autism Jersey and I continue to be a fundraiser for that charity. Before entering politics in 2022, I was an independent member of the Public Accounts Committee and I'm currently Deputy for St Brelard. I have served as Minister for Justice and Home Affairs and I'm now the Chair of the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel. So all of that has given me a very balanced experience of serving both in government and on scrutiny. As a minister, I established the Violence Against Women and Girls Task Force and also delivered the Building a Safer Community framework to support early intervention and reduce crime. I introduced a 3-year work permit to help recruit hospitality staff, and I negotiated a scheme to increase the numbers of French day trippers to boost tourism. On scrutiny, I led a review which made recommendations to strengthen our vital parish system. I cherish Jersey's identity, our history, our language, and our traditions. We should be really proud of who we are, and we should keep our heritage and culture alive. As an island, we face several challenges which we must work together to address. We need to support lower income families with the cost of living. We must control state spending and start to live again within our means. And we need to grow our economy, giving all our young islanders hope and an affordable future in Jersey. Financial services drives our economy. It's our most important industry. But we must still support agriculture, tourism and hospitality alongside the digital sector and appropriate diversification. For me, diversification should be about creating future jobs for our young people. Is that it? Sorry.
Thank you. Mark Boliat.
Good evening, Mark Boliat, born and educated in Jersey. Like many islanders, I've had a varied working life, from serving pints at the Smugglers Inn at Waynay to holding chief executive and chair positions in government, public bodies, business and charities in Jersey and in Britain. Has that experience given me all the answers? Far from it. But I think it's helped me ask all the right questions, to work collaboratively with others, to tackle big issues, to take good decisions and to implement them. The island faces financial pressures. Government spending has risen excessively, and the government finances are under pressure. And so are the finances of many households. We have to tackle that. We're not going to tackle it without increasing economic growth. We must avoid tax increases. To increase growth, we have to remove the obstacles to growth. The biggest obstacle is the planning system. It gets in the way of businesses seeking to expand. It is slow and it is unpredictable. And it can affect households who simply want to improve their homes. We can reform the system in a way that does not jeopardize our fantastic environment. And more generally, we need to reduce the burden of regulation, which is excessive. I'm passionate about social mobility. Life chances are largely determined by the age of 5. Yet only 64% of our children start primary school at the expected stage of development. Some good work's been done on social mobility. We need to build on that to give our young people the best start in life. I want to be elected because I want to work collaboratively with all members of the Assembly, with business, with charities, and with local communities to give the people of Jersey the government that they deserve. Thank you.
Serena Kirsten Guthrie.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Serena, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm best known as the ex-England netball captain and Commonwealth Games gold medalist. And I love my career. It took me all over, It took me all over the world, and I, mixed with the best in the business. But I knew that when it was time to retire, there was only one place that I really wanted to come back to, and that was here in Jersey. So I was struck to come back here and find how expensive it was to live here as a young person and to have friends and family frequently leaving. And so it's got me thinking, is there a part I have to play here in Jersey in public service? And that's because I learned one thing in team sport, is that when a team is constantly losing, it isn't individual failure, it's the failure of a team to work cohesively together. And I think right now, Jersey feels like that. It feels like a team that's losing. We aren't helping enough people through cost of living. We haven't got a grip on government spending, and our island isn't making enough money. And the next government are under huge pressure to deliver results, grow the economy, and try and spend less. There are some personal passions that I'm going to fight for if elected. I believe deeply in the good that sport can do for children. And I want to put PE teachers back into our primary schools. And I care deeply about preventative health so we can nip things in the bud, save lives, and save money. I believe that our best days are ahead of us if we can work together. And we must work together. We must listen better. And it's your choice as candidates to pick a group of people to take responsibility and deliver. I will do that. Thank you.
Bernard Place.
Good evening. My name is Bernard Place, and I'm standing as an independent candidate for Senator because I believe that islanders are looking for practical and sensible answers to the pressures we face, especially the cost of living, housing, and healthcare. After 40 years in public service, including many years as a registered nurse, I've worked from the front line to executive board. I understand both the human impact of public services and how difficult they are to run well. Jersey now needs to focus less on promises and more on making services work better. Healthcare is our largest public service and one of the biggest pressures on public finances. Islanders rightly want spending that supports doctors, nurses and frontline staff, not unnecessary bureaucracy and duplication. Before asking islanders to pay more, we should first ask whether services can be delivered more effectively and more sensibly. That means better organised services and better value for money islanders already contribute. The election is also an opportunity to widen the experience and perspectives in the States Assembly. Now, I respect those already serving, but there is value in adding practical public service experience to the Assembly. Many people who read my Jersey Evening Post articles describe my approach as sensible.
Now, I'll take that. Sensible is good in government. Because after 40 years in public service, I've learned that the loudest answer is not always the best one. The best solutions are usually practical, measured, sensible. And that's the approach I hope to bring to the States Assembly as one of your 9 senators. Thank you.
Alan Brecken.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to refer to this document, so if you got one, if you could have a look, it would help. The green bit highlighted shows expenditure in 2022 of over 218 million. The pink shows in 2023 this increased to 257 million, and the yellow bit highlight shows this was over 38 million more when compared with 2022. The blue bit shows this equates to over £746,000 a week, or over £106,000 a day. This is enough to have given every man, woman and child in Jersey £1,000 a day for the whole year. Note, this is only the year-on-year increase, not the total spend. So on the back page, I've listed the ministers and assistant ministers in 2023, and I'm asking who is responsible, who is accountable, and apparently nobody is. So take this home and have a good look at that, and those figures, I'm sure, will surprise you. And against this spending background, I know speaking to people across the island, they are concerned about medical treatment, waiting a long time for an appointment or a consultation, waiting over a year. The list has gone up from 812 in 2024 to 1,307 in 2025. And some of us have paid in 30, 40 years or more. We shouldn't have to pay again. We should be first in the queue, not last. And I believe we can save money and spend it on the right things. And that's why I'm here tonight. Thank you.
Steve Luce.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Luce, and for the last 15 years I've had the honour of being the Deputy for St Martin. I'm running for Senator because I believe that ministers should be drawn from the senatorial benches, and if I'm fortunate enough to be re-elected, I'd like to be reconsidered for Environment Minister, the role that I currently have. I still hugely enjoy representing the countryside, the land and the sea. I have the energy to get up in the morning and try and keep brown cows in green fields, and I'm enthusiastic enough to want to work with both farmers and fishermen throughout the year. My proudest achievement in the last 4 years has been securing over £6 million of annual funding for farming and fishing, and it's great to see that our young farmers particularly now see a future in the industry. But environment is so much more than that. As Minister, I have the responsibility for environmental health. I've recently introduced a rented dwelling licence scheme protecting both tenants and landlords. I have the state's vet under my remit, and I brought in a new animal welfare law protecting both wild and domestic animals in Jersey. And as the Minister with responsibility for water, I've finally started to tackle the issue of PFAS in our mains and in our streams. There's a lot more to do there. In the next 4 years, we need a new island plan that has to deliver more homes for young people. They need to be affordable. We need to up the amount of shared equity that government takes in those houses to help families see a future. We need more land rezoned for light industry to diversify the economy and provide jobs. Finally, I'd just like to say, in the next few years, I'd like to work even harder with local farmers and fishermen to put more locally grown and locally caught produce on your plates to eat. That will help you address the cost of living crisis. Thank you.
Sam Mezek.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam Mezek, and for the last 12 years, I've been a member of the States of Jersey. I've served in several roles during that time, including Chief Scrutineer, but for the last 2 years, I've been the Minister for Housing. Earlier this evening, I went canvassing in this area to try to get a feel for what people in the local community were feeling. And in particular, I went round the corner to Clos de la Butte and spoke to some of the young families there who'd become first-time buyers through that development, and they told me about how pleased they were to have had that opportunity. But several of them had told me just how close they came to giving up on Jersey before that became available for them. Some of them even told me with their toddlers by their sides that they had seriously considered not having children because they hadn't until that point been able to get on the housing ladder. And I think that's a feeling that many young people in Jersey also feel, and that will resonate with them. And that's why I think it's so important that the next government makes it our mission to try to turn things around and instill in our young people confidence that Jersey can once again be a place that they can believe in hope and believe that they will have decent and happy lives here if they're prepared to work hard for it as well. And I've been proud in the last 2 years to play my part in trying to do that. I was really proud to have launched the First Step First Time Buyer scheme. There's some really good housing developments going on too, including at Sion, and there's more to come. And I want to make sure that we aren't diverted off that track and do what governments so frequently do in Jersey, which is pull the handbrake up, review everything whilst things stall. So I hope that in my time in the States, I've proven myself to be an effective politician, a decisive minister, and a capable leader of a team that is constructive and united. And if you give me that opportunity to serve you again, I promise to continue that good work. And with your support and by working as a team, I'm sure that we can turn the tide. Thank you.
Alan Lepavu.
Good evening. My name is Alan Lepavu, and I'm standing because Jersey needs practical, community-focused leadership at a time when many islanders are really under pressure. Through my work with the Bode Foundation, young people, families, and community organisations, I've seen both the strength of our island and the strain many are under. Too many people are struggling with the cost of living, too many families feel locked out of housing, and too many young people are questioning whether their future is here at all. That's not sustainable, and it needs urgent, practical attention. I'm not a career politician, and I'm not driven by ideology. I believe in listening, working collaboratively, and focusing on what works. I believe Jersey works best when three parts move together: a strong economy driven by commerce, an effective, focused government that produces policies and legislation that improves the lives of our people, and a supported charity and community sector properly funded where it delivers critical services. You won't always agree with every decision I make, but you will know it's thoughtful, balanced, and rooted in what's best for our community now and into the future. If elected, I will work hard, stay accessible, and focused on an outcomes-based accountability approach. And feel free to Google that. I'd be grateful for your support on the 7th of June, but please, above all else, use your vote for a better Jersey built together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of the candidates for their speeches. So it is now time for questions. We have Martin from the parish who's helping us this evening. Thank you, Martin. He's got his work cut out for him. We've got one microphone to get around the room and also up there as well. So you'll get your step count in tonight, Martin. We do ask that questions will be brief, please, and we ask that it's a question, not a statement. That's really important. And please make sure that you ask a question that can be answered by all 17 candidates, not just aimed at one of them. If your question is very long, then I may need to ask you to shorten your question, and they can't be offensive in any way. If that happens, you may be asked to leave the room or to stop talking. A reminder that we're going to take questions from parishioners first this evening, and we won't be taking any questions from candidates or from elected members. If you could as well, hold the microphone really close so we can hear what you say. That's really important for the live stream. And can you please state your name and also where you're from before you ask your question? That would be great. Okay, let's get started. We're going to take 2 questions at a time. You will each have 90 seconds to answer each of the questions. Well, you need to answer the 2 questions in that 90 seconds. So if anybody would like to kick off and put their hand in the air, we will take some questions. Thank you. There is a lady at the front in the green jumper, and there's also a lady at the back over there. We'll start with them. Thank you. Tell us your name, first of all, and where you're from.
Good evening.
Hold the microphone just
sorry.
here. Thank you.
Good evening, and I'm glad you're all here. One question I want to be answered is the car ferry system to Guernsey. I had to go all the way to Portsmouth, then to Poole, and then to Guernsey. I could have gone on a Wednesday at 4:15, but then I would have to stay for a whole week in Guernsey. I talked to the various van people and asked what the situation was. They said their businesses had to provide 2 vans, one to go to Guernsey and one to go to Jersey, which was costing them a lot of money. This is quite ridiculous. Now I read in the paper the Danish company is now providing another boat, yes, for Jersey and France and England. But where does Guernsey fit into this?
So
We're
can I ask, what is your final question
Yeah,
for the candidates?
Yeah, and I would like to ask the panel whether to keep this company, have a break clause, or look for somebody else.
Thank you very much. Could you just confirm your name and where you live?
I'm Sarah Johnson.
Sarah Johnson, thank you. And you live in the parish. Thank you. And the lady at the back in the blue jumper, thank you.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Janet Egler-Shaw and I live in St John's. And my question really is for everybody, and it's one simple one. Who would be standing if there was no payment for this position? You can put your hands up.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. So we'll begin. I just need to get the timer. One moment, please. Bear with me. Okay, Lyndon, we're going to start with you and we're going to go down this row. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. I think it's probably an underestimation to say that the start by DFDS has been disappointing and frustrating at times. It always takes time to build in a new ferry service. I spent 8 years as Economic Development Minister in days gone past, and of course one of the biggest challenges I had was dealing with Condor ferries. Some of you might remember the Liberation crashing into the pier and so forth. I believe things will get better. On the specific case of inter-island car ferry service, we have tried extremely hard to introduce more services to Guernsey. DFDS have tried hard. It's been difficult dealing with Guernsey. They've refused our applications. Condor ferries have specific terms and agreements over there, but we will keep trying. Expanded car ferry services between the islands are absolutely essential. And rest assured that if things don't get better, we will hold DFDS to the terms of their contract and take action if necessary. I would stand if there was no payment. In fact, when I did initially stand in 1999, there was no payment, and I quite enjoyed it then as much as I do now. And that's my hand up. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. I think the issue about the inter-island ferry is very disappointing. You know, historically, we've always had good links with Guernsey, be that by sort of Trident ferries or Condor. I think the trite answer is to say we are where we are, but where we are cannot remain. And I think we absolutely need to reopen negotiations with Guernsey. I think maybe a different set of personalities with a different negotiating style may have better success, but I am absolutely clear that we cannot maintain this situation. Part of your question was, should we keep the company? Should we have a break clause, or should we find someone else? I think we have to be careful what we wish for. There weren't actually that many people that were actually bidding for our ferry service. It isn't a particularly lucrative option, but I do think there is some negotiation to be done. In terms of would I be standing if there was no payment, I have a personal situation whereby I could stand if there was no payment, but I wouldn't be able to commit myself full-time and over full-time to this job in the way that I do, because I would have had to go out and work and get some income. I have a family and domestic responsibilities. I think people should be paid for this job, because then it opens up the market to a far broader range of people other than those who are of independent means. Thank you.
Thank you. Two excellent questions. The first one, the people of Jersey and of Guernsey are now poorly served by the ferry services for the two islands. That, I think, is absolutely certain. I don't know how we got into that position, but I would hope that somewhere in government there's been a quiet internal review to learn some lessons from that experience. And of course we have to look at what can be done to improve the situation in the short term, and that has to be done in cooperation with Guernsey. And I hope that will be done over the next few years. On the specific question, my answer is yes, and indeed I did so for 17 years in the City of London, including 5 years as full-time chair. However, I agree with what Helen Miles has just said. I can afford to do it. As you can tell by looking at me, I'm fairly old. I don't look old, but I am fairly old. Okay. I look yet, sorry, don't go there. I have a generous pension of the sort that people can't get today. I can afford to do it. Not everyone can. Thank you.
To answer your first question, I'm sorry you're going through this, and I think everybody in the island is feeling the pains of DFDS. The sports sector, particularly, our netball Interinsular of Guernsey was cancelled this year. That was a huge factor. It's become unsustainable to travel inter-island, where I think that should be our biggest strength, personally. I obviously wasn't in the room with the decision making, but I think it's an example of poor stakeholder engagement, and I think we need to strengthen that when we're committing the island into multi-million year deals and spending lots of money. So that's, I think, lesson learned, I think, for whoever's elected next going into States Assembly. I'm a mum of two with a very big mortgage since moving back, so I literally couldn't afford to do, be in this role and not be paid. But I do think we need a mix. I believe very strongly about people standing for government, potentially being someone like Mark who's had that level of experience, but then also people like me who actually want to step into this space and be a role model to show every mum of two with a big mortgage that you can come into a space like this and work hard and do something good for the people of Jersey.
Thank you. It was respect to the ferry. I think the ferry contract needs to be seen in the context of wider cooperation with Guernsey. Both islands are facing the same kind of future, the same kind of pressures. We should have an incentive, therefore, to work much more cooperatively together and set aside some of our historical differences. And the areas we could work together would be health, there'd be joint procurement, there'd be IT, there'd be a whole set of opportunities that make more sense with a population of 160,000-70,000 than they do with two separate populations divided. So I think it should be seen in that context. In terms of would I be standing here if there was no payment, the answer is yes. Like Mark, I'm fortunate. I do have a pension. I also have a role model in my father-in-law, Derek Maltwood, who was deputy for St Mary some time ago, and he forewent his stipend, his payment. So it is possible, but I'm in a very special position.
Thank you. Like many of us, I've spent some good times in sporting events and other things in Guernsey. And it's a shame, really, that Guernsey appear to have pulled up the drawbridge. They're not cooperating with Airlinks as well. And it's a shame because there is definite mutual benefits, sport being one thing, but social as well. Regarding payments, I first stood for the States in 1990 in St Saviour, and I stood in the by-election in 1992. And I got elected in 1993. I think people got sick of me going around knocking on their doors. But there was no payment at that time. And I was working full-time, and I can tell you, It was very difficult, and then I went part-time, and we were allowed then an income support from the States, but there was no payment. But I would stand if there was no payment, but again, I'm retired, so I don't rely on the income, so that's the situation. And I'm standing not to take the money, but hopefully to save us all some money. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Mrs. Johnson. I know we've spoken about this before. Inter-island travel is only inter-island because there are two islands, and this is very much a story of two islands. Brittany Ferries applied to come here from Guernsey, and we said yes. DFDS applied to go to Guernsey, and they said no. It's not DFDS's fault that they're not able to run there. I'm a great fan of DFDS. I think when we look back in 5 years' time, we will find that we have absolutely made the right decision. I think they've been a little bit unlucky, but I accept that you make your own luck. But I'm very confident in the future. I know we're paying a little bit more, but that money is going to reinvest in new boats that Guernsey won't have. We will have a completely new fleet of vessels in 10 years' time. And I think it's well worth the effort. I think they will bed down. I think they have delivered a lot in a very short space of time, and they will do more. As for payment, I would happily stand for the States for no money if everybody else did the same. But I don't think it's right that we do this job and exclude some who couldn't afford to do it. I do think, however, that the amount of money we get paid is absolutely in the wrong place. It's not enough to attract people out of the private sector, but it's enough for people who haven't got a job. So I think we should either have nothing or more and attract a whole load more people to this job if we can possibly ever get people to come forward.
It is absolutely tragic that Jersey and Guernsey don't work much closer together on a whole host of things, and to see us split in the way that we have has obviously been really bad for both of us. It is too early to tell ultimately who had the right judgment call there, because remember, Condor did have some serious financial difficulties before that could have ended up being lumped on us if things had gone a different way. We don't know that yet, but what we can try to do in the next term of office is try to set the reset button with our colleagues in Guernsey, work closely with them, and make that stronger case that working together as Channel Islanders is for the benefit to all of us, and we should try to do that. It's also worth noting that Deputy Tadjer led a scrutiny review on this. That's made some recommendations of things the government should do, so we should probably pick those up as well in the next term of office. Janet, in terms of would I stand, well, I love this job. I'm not going to lie about that. It even has its ups and downs, but I do truly love it. And the thing I love more than that is my island, and I want to see it thrive, and I want to do what I can to play my part in that. So yes, I would if it were unpaid, but that's because you asked would I, not could I. And unfortunately, I couldn't, because I'm not from a wealthy background. I don't have independent financial means, and that would be something that I would have no mathematical way of making it work. But if that weren't an issue, would I? Yes, because I love this island.
Yeah, unfortunately, the ferry is what it is, and it's going to take a lot of work to unpick it. But my feelings are there must be people in Guernsey who are feeling exactly the same as we are over here, and we need to try and, if we've got contacts through sport or business, we need to be reaching out to those contacts so that people in Guernsey can try and leverage a better deal as well. As for being paid, I'm doing this because I didn't want to coast my way into retirement. But without being paid, I wouldn't have been able to financially afford it. I'm not in that financial bracket. But what's more concerning is my vice chairman of my life-saving club, who's just turned 30, I was talking to him about it, and he said, oh, maybe I could do that. And then he found out what the pay was, and he said, oh, I'd have to take a cut in salary to do it. So that's the reality. If we want quality people coming forward, especially the young, we need to finance it. Thank you.
Yes, I'm doing this thing. I'm not a shipping expert. However, I would expect that the tender process would have involved shipping experts. And we're in the situation we are with the current contract because they've been consulted and decisions have been made. I think it's early days to decide whether or not the right decision has been made. We will obviously know in a few years' time. But it is hard to understand, I feel, that when you're surrounded by a company that is providing routes around us. I know Condor is a subsidiary of Brittany Ferries, but the parent company is Brittany Ferries, and they're subsidised by the French government. When we're surrounded by routes that are serviced by them, it is hard to understand why the tender has gone to DFDS, but I think time will tell, and we should be okay. Is that the final bell? Oh, right, okay. In respect to your question about being paid, I think that if you do pay people, you get the right people for the job. Personally, I would still do it because I have got a long history of working with community as a social enterprise to include activity that actually saves us money from the health budget.
As far as the car ferries are concerned, I think sometimes the facts get lost in what happens afterwards. And I don't mind saying a positive word in favour of the minister who had to deal with this, because as much as I wasn't party to all of the detail, I was very much aware that he was handed a poison chalice. It was Hobson's choice for him, and I just hope he doesn't carry the blame for it. We are where we are. Negotiations have to carry on. I'm health minister, but I still get a lot of emails from people writing to me, complaining and moaning about things, and that's understandable. So, yeah, we've got to keep working with that, and I'm sure there will be a route out at some point. It's all very well cooperating with Guernsey, but they've got to want to cooperate with us, and in this instance, I don't think they came out in shining colours. With regard to the payment, I certainly didn't come to this job for the money. And if the money was withdrawn, I'd still carry on. But I think it would be a very, very unwise thing to do. We need a representative government in the 21st century, and you need to keep the payments there. Thank you.
Looks like time to explode a few myths. Firstly, although Jersey and Guernsey tried to have joint negotiations on ferries, let's not forget that Guernsey had loaned Condor Brittany Ferries over £20 million, I think 26 million, and clearly they were slightly biased because they wanted to get their money back. The other issue is once that we knew which way things were going, Condor Brittany Ferries got in and booked the best prime berths in St Malo as an example, and DFDS were left out. That's why things didn't work that way. As for inter-island travel, I don't know. Hands up who wants to go to Guernsey. I'm not in a rush. Yeah. Could you add on for the applause, please? Now, right. Everyone thinks they remember when States members did it for nothing. Well, I was a channel reporter during those days, and I can recall stopping a committee president in the street and saying, "How on earth do you manage not being paid?" He said, "Don't worry about me, guy. I've got 14 non-executive directorships, and thank goodness we pay them now, because that stops our government being affected by people who owe a duty to somebody else, some company, some board." And by the way, let's not forget, the Board of Jersey Electricity used to be staffed by States members. The Board of Jersey Water used to be staffed by States members. That's how they got their money.
The inter-island travel conundrums, I think, are things that is a question of accountability. I am a newbie, and I come with new ideas. When I get into the boat of leadership, I'll deal with it and by finding out what actually happened and then resolve it accordingly. As I said earlier, invest in me, because you will get an investment outcome out of me. So return of investment. A vote is, for me, a value. I put a value, but people who just receive votes because you give him a vote, they can do whatever they want to do with the vote. for me, I am counting every vote as a value. So I'll return with feedbacks from you. As of now, I can't give you any answer. I'm sorry. As far as would I work as a leader, I've worked before as a volunteer. Why wouldn't I apply a voluntary intention to serve my community? Is it the money that is leading, or is it the interest to lead my community the right way? I think the two are synonymous. Thank you.
Obviously, quite a lot's been said about the ferries, and it's not an ideal situation, but I think everybody knows that we weren't negotiating with Brittany Ferries, we were negotiating with Condor, and unfortunately, with Condor came significant debt, and so that was quite a worry for us, and unfortunately, Guernsey made a decision, really, without consulting us, so we were sort of left in a very difficult position. It does need to be revisited. I think there does seem to be some negotiation with Guernsey in order that we can resolve being able to get those ferries going back and forward with DFDS as well as with Brittany Ferries. Yes, I would do this job if I wasn't paid. However, I do have financial means because I, like others, are of a certain age. But what I do feel is that you have to be able to have a good cross-section of people in the Assembly. And of course, if you had somebody that decided they wanted to be a states member but needed an income as well, then they'd end up with two jobs. And I think to do this job, you wouldn't be able to have two jobs if you're going to be effective.
The ferry situation. I was the Minister for Economic Development when the last contract was negotiated with Condor. I can tell you it wasn't easy sticking with Guernsey or negotiating a solution, but it was done. The routes are not viable, unfortunately, when they're split. It just doesn't work. It's not economically viable. What I would undertake to do, if elected, is to look to review the situation we've got, because it's not satisfactory, it's not working inter-island. Things like the flat rate card in the contract are not good for the island. It's adding to the cost of our food because they can't negotiate any longer preferential rates, as big businesses used to be able to do. Those costs are passed on to the supermarkets, and you and I, we're paying 4 or 5% more. These are issues that need to be dealt with. As far as pay, would I? Yes, I would, because I'm in an unfortunate position that I could. But I've spent the last few years, the last 2 elections, trying to encourage people to stand here. I've obviously failed, which is why I'm here myself. But it's not easy, and it's not easy for the reason that talented people who are working can't afford a pay cut. People retired are worried about their reputation because it's quite a toxic environment sometimes. So it's really difficult. We need less states members, paid more, and a little bit more respect. But that comes with two-way traffic. So we've got to earn the respect by making good decisions.
Thank you. Well, I also support the appointment of DFDS. The year before that procurement went out to tender, I spent hours and hours and hours and hours discussing what we were going to do about Condor, and we spent a lot of money making sure that we did have boats sat in harbours ready to go out and operate if Condor stopped or something happened to their boat. DFDS are a good firm. They haven't had the start we would have hoped for, but I am absolutely confident that we will get on an even keel. And what we've all forgotten is how much we moaned about Condor beforehand. They weren't fantastic either latterly. So I do think it's a good decision. I do think we will get something sorted out with Guernsey in due course. The question of payment, I gave up a very, very good job and took a very significant pay cut to do this job. Could I afford to do it for nothing? No, I couldn't. Would I? No, I don't think I would, because it's a very hard job. I agree with Sam. It's a fantastic job. I love it. But my God, it's stressful. It's full days. I work full days, Monday to Friday. I work at weekends. We all work at evenings. It's a hard job. And to ask people with talent and skill and experience to do that job for nothing, I'm sorry, is unreasonable, and there are lots of other ways we can contribute to the community. Even the charitable sector pay people better than we are. No, thank you.
The inter-island ferry situation is in the way that it is because, of course, it was a joint tender process. Towards the end of that joint tender process, Guernsey made a decision. The minister and the council of ministers was then left with either making a decision that they thought was in Jersey's best interest or just following Guernsey. They did the former. They went with what they thought was in Jersey's best interest. DFDS is one of Europe's best ferry services. The problem is the service we're currently getting isn't one that islanders should expect. There is a new government in Guernsey. There is going to be a new government in Jersey. That will allow the relationship with Jersey and Guernsey to be reset and to have conversations. But it's going to be a bit of give and take, and both sides are going to have to slightly suck it up to get that service back on track. But that contract invests in vessels that will come to and from Jersey, £300 million over the end of that contract. We already know that Guernsey have had to refinance the money that they've given to Condor. Yes, I would. My wife's probably not going to give me supper now when I get home, but yes, I would, because I absolutely love this job. I am passionate about Jersey and serving this community, and I love being out there talking about Jersey and what's great about it. But I am worried that where the salary is currently set means that professional people in either the public sector or in the private sector are put off standing. We've got to do something about that.
Thank you. Thank you for all of the answers. It's time to take 2 more questions. Can I just ask, is there anyone up on the stage area, because I'm aware that you're out of view, who would like to ask a question? Okay, in that case, this lady at the front, thank you for the first question. And we'll take one from the gentleman here in the grey top afterwards. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Nicole Shepherd, and many of the candidates here tonight have discussed the problem of young islanders leaving the island. Specifically looking at the sharp decline of 20 to 29-year-olds in the island over the last 5 years. My question to you is regarding the postgraduate bursary, which is an inaccessible funding model for young islanders, with less than 50% each year applicants receiving funding. Part-time studies aren't supported, and it's highly competitive. My question to you is what reforms you would prioritise to create a fair model that is accessible to all?
Thank you. And we'll go to the gentleman in the grey jumper, and I'll come over to this side of the room when we have time for our next questions. Thank you.
My name's Melvin Lefevre. Question to the candidates. If elected, which committee would you like to be able to head up, and why?
Thank you. We'll start with Carl Bush.
Okay. I've got little experience of bursaries. I have grandchildren. My children grew up a long time ago, and they didn't go to university. So my experience of that side is pretty limited. But what I can say is that I've done an awful lot of work in social enterprise and supporting people to develop skills. And if we can support people to develop what they're experienced at and develop their skill sets, it's empowerment. And that empowerment can be shared with the rest of the community, especially when it comes to young people who are stuck financially to obviously go away and skill up. So if we could produce a format here to keep people here and to keep the skills here and to share off the rest of the community with the experience, I think that would work well. The other question about committees, I do have experience working in local government in the UK, I've sat on a number of committees. My favourite one was actually planning. I've got good experience of that. Although the environment was a little bit more different over there, I think listening to people's concerns and seeing the bigger picture. Okay, thank you. Which way does it go? This way?
I have to be honest, when it comes to young people and bursaries, it's not an area that I understand particularly well. But it is something during the course of this election period that young people have written to me about, particularly in relation to bursaries for health. So what I have actually promised to do if I get back in is to look at it from that point of view if I'm in that position. In terms of what I would do if elected, if I had to pick a single area, for me it would be health. There's a lot of good work going on there, and there's another 4 years work to do there, so that would be my answer.
Great to hear an old school view about which committee would you like to be on. I assume you mean what minister would you like to be? And we got asked this question the other evening. And I said, I'll be blunt, there isn't really a ministry that I want in particular. What I would like is to be minister without portfolio, because in my view, the problems right across the board I'd like to have a go at, rather than just being the minister responsible for this little bit. And I have been a minister, and I can assure you it takes up your entire time. And I mean like about 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, just dedicated to what your department is doing. And I had 600 employees roughly under me, and it makes you work jolly hard. Now, in terms of bursaries, I sense I'm walking into a minefield here. I was very lucky. I went and did my law degree when the states paid for everything. Now, thanks, unfortunately, to the Blair Brown Labour government, who insisted that 50% school leavers should go into university education. It's all changed. You didn't need a degree to work in McDonald's when I got my degree. Apparently, you do now. I'm all for giving you as easy a time. If you're good at education and you've got the qualifications, great. Let's follow that, but we need the money.
The area of bursaries is crucial. I think as the island charges many parents that are working a lot of money, a lot of tax, I think it is just fair enough to also educate and provide funding for those who are going to university, because not everybody is going to university. For those who are around, who are doing part-time work and study, that is also important, that is provided. They are encouraged that they can be funded through that. I would go for the fact that every young person that comes from Jersey should get funded, and maybe that's a better way also of encouraging them to come back and work here, because we could put a condition around the fact that if you're funded, you have to come and do your internship also back in Jersey here, as long as what you're studying relates to the island. And then the issue to do with what ministry or committee I would love to work in, I would be glad to work with the community, any ministry that relates to community education, children, young people, and education. SIPES is the department I work for right now. And so my background is in education. I've worked for I've trained in special needs education. I would love to carry on that kind of support where I support that department. Thank you.
During my speech, I mentioned the fact about support and encourage on our island upskilling. And I'm a good example of that from the point of view I left school at 15. I was fortunate that somebody offered me the opportunity to go to Highlands College on day release, and I managed to get my accounting qualifications, which meant that I ended up being able to be a police officer, because I probably wouldn't have had that opportunity had I not gone to Highlands College. Following that, I did my law degree, again, which was sponsored through the states. I think it was something like I got 80% and they paid, they gave me 80% and I paid 20%. But that was obviously whilst working. I do think that we need to encourage young people to get qualifications certainly that we need on island, and to encourage that. I think bursaries are an option, whether that is on island or off island. And if we are actually able to offer them on island, I think that's a real benefit, because it may be that the young person, if they're able to stay on the island, won't have to go to the UK, and then potentially won't have to pay the costs of accommodation and food and everything else, and obviously get the support. In relation to, if elected, which committee, which ministerial role, obviously I've loved what I've been doing for the last couple of years. I'm fairly got a reasonable background in justice and home affairs. However, it really is dependent on who the chief minister is that takes the role, because they basically select who they would like to have for that role. And I do have other feathers in my cap, so to speak.
Thank you, Nicole, for your question. It's hugely expensive. It is a problem, and we've got to do a lot more to try and make it more accessible. When I was in the States last, I was Treasury Minister, and in the budget in 2017, I expanded the student finance scheme quite dramatically to allow more young people the opportunity to go to university. Really important that we invest in our young talent. Hopefully, if we do that, they'll come back and contribute to the local economy as well. But whatever, it's very important. I believe also there's opportunities for more on-island degree courses. We should invest in that and link it to the local economy. So finance, compliance, agriculture, marine. We can do courses at all those levels and offer local people opportunities, and also bring in international students. That stimulates the local economy, so bars, clubs, restaurants, hotels. There's opportunities there because friends and family visit. We've got to do a lot more, and I would look to review what we had before if I were elected. Melvin, your question about committees, which are obviously ministries now, names change. I would serve wherever colleagues felt I was most able to add some value. I've had experience as Treasury Minister in the past. I was also Economic Development Minister. So those are two areas I have experience, finance and business, and I would seek to contribute wherever I could. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm afraid I don't really know enough about postgraduate bursary to really be able to comment, although I do think that we do need to focus on making sure if somebody needs a postgraduate qualification to then develop their career, it's important that we enable them to do that. And it may be you need to draw some kind of distinction between things like masters for a year, PhD that goes on for 3 or 4 years. But yes, I really support education, and I think I would agree looking at how we can enable young people to study. I am not as absolutely committed to young people studying in the island. I think people should go away to university and get the experience off island. Clearly we want them to come back, and we might need to do something with tying in the bursary to coming back to the island to make sure that the island got the benefit of the studies. Which committee? Well, it sounds like I might be having a tussle with Alan because I really enjoyed Social Security, but I did also like Treasury, even though in Treasury you get all the pain and not much of the gain sometimes, because other people take the glory when it goes well, and Treasury gets the stick on the head when it doesn't. But there is a lot we can do in Treasury. Everybody said they want to control costs and cut government spending. The Treasury Minister needs a few more powers. We need to go back to multi-year budgeting. There are lots of things we can do to try and constrain spending, and I would like to do that if I'm re-elected. Thank you.
Really, I can't add too much to what Alan said when he was Treasury Minister and I was Chief Minister. The last time there was a major review of the degree course funding. At that point, we made the decision rightly to extend grants rather than go into a loan scheme. That's meant more islanders can go and study. I think what you're saying to us in your question is that we've now got a similar problem to the one we're trying to address then with bursaries and further education after your initial degree course. So I would agree to do that work and review it in the same way that we did previously, because it's critically important, and it's probably more important now than it's ever been, that young people and also lifelong learning, we reskill and we continue to educate ourselves, because we know what's going to happen with technology and AI. We need to be a knowledge economy, and therefore an investment in young people is the only future for our island. So I would very much support that. The job that I would like to do, I think I said in my opening remarks, I would like to continue doing what I'm doing, but I know full well that actually should I be honoured enough to have your votes and be elected, it will depend on what my colleagues want, and I am most passionate about serving our community in whichever way they think is best. If I come back to this job, delivering on the competitiveness work is again fundamental to our economic security and to good public services. Thank you.
Hi, I'm quite clearly passionate about supporting young people. One of the things I would like to see is us introducing support for young people to grow their careers on the island so that they can benefit us economically. But that means developing things like secondment opportunities so they can continue to grow and develop. I know 3 young people that have left the island and haven't come back. And I think we should celebrate them because they are doing things that potentially could change the world. But those who want to stay should be supported and encouraged to grow. As for a ministerial post, my background is in early years education, childcare and special needs. I've also worked in the leisure industry, but children and families minister would be where I would sit best. That's where my skill set is. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. My youngest sister recently went through a postgraduate qualification, and I know how stressful and difficult that was for her and my parents to make sure that it was actually viable for her to do that. I think the starting principle has to be that as an island, we should empower our young people to be able to reach their potential, whatever that is, and at whatever level of education that is from start to finish. And we must not go down the UK route of saddling young people with tens of thousands of pounds of debt that they'll never pay off just to get a decent education. So Reform Jersey originally campaigned for the undergraduate bursaries to be expanded, and we were absolutely delighted when Alan and Ian took that idea from us. Great job, guys, that was wonderful. So we need, and we can look at further things too and expand that, and looking at postgrad as well. Absolutely, that will be in the island's interest, and maybe we could start by working with businesses to find out specific areas that they might want to sponsor. That could be a good starting point in that, so let's look at that. In terms of which role I'd want, well, the key part will be what shape that next government takes, because we've had 2 governments in this term of office. The first was not very inclusive and balanced. The second was much more inclusive and balanced and did a lot better job than the first one. If we get that kind of government, then I'd love to carry on as housing minister. I'm on top of my brief. I know what's going on and know some of the further changes we need to see. So I'd love to do that. But I would happily try my hand at other areas as well. Economic development, I think, is one that would be really exciting, but we'll see.
Thank you, Nicole, for the question. The first thing I want to say is all islanders or youngsters should try and get off the island and experience the world outside of Jersey for a short period of time. But in order to encourage people like yourself back after you've graduated, I would be very much in favour of giving you a full grant. If you guarantee to come back, if you've got a degree in health, any part of education, any part of engineering, any part of skilled trades, let's get our youngsters back into Jersey and give them a help to get the qualification that they need. When they come back, let's get some more affordable housing, and I've already talked about increased sharing equity the government must take to help young families get on the ladder. Melvin, I've already indicated that I would, if I'm lucky enough to be re-elected, look for possibly getting back into the Environment Minister job. You know, the sea, I love the sea, swimming, surfing, sailing, but if you like land and not the sea, you can walk, you can cycle, you can run. You've got some of the best cliff paths in St John's in the island. Why would you ever want to go anywhere else in the summer than Jersey? That's my motto. So that's where my priority would be. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Steve's just made some very good points there, and I would just add to that to try and encourage employers to maybe do a little bit more with bursaries for education and for sport, for people who might be achieving at a high level. And it's hard to have reforms to do that. I think it's encouragement and try and get employers and indeed the government to invest in our young people to attain the best that they can. If elected, which committee would I like? It would actually be the Public Accounts Committee if elected, because I think there's a serious review required about what's happened with some of the existing spending, and I'd also like to bring that into real life. And I can give you an example which includes some good news and some bad news. The bad news is £21 million was spent on a IT system for income tax. The good news is it was Guernsey that spent it. Now that shows really how difficult it is to assess some of that stuff, and I'd like to get involved to have a really close look to see what money is being spent on some of these projects, to see whether it is fit for purpose and if it's doing the job it's supposed to. Thank you.
Okay, so education is a private benefit and a public good, and therefore the partnership between government and the student is absolutely critical. So you can organise education in ways that actually give very quick benefits. So I've, for example, managed public services where actually giving people the full fees for a course enabled me over 2 years to displace agency nurses by having a registered nurse employed in the unit for 2 years. It's equivalent of 10 shifts, you know, so it's a very rapid payback. But it's also over the long term, when you have the students coming back, you have an income tax stream of up to 40 years. So we need to think about the economics of supporting young people with bursaries and with fees. And it isn't difficult to make a business case stand up. In terms of what committee I would and what ministry, ironically, it wouldn't be health. I think there's a risk of having people who are expert in the subject getting drawn into detail in a portfolio. And my preferred option would be education. I have a background in education. I've taught at undergraduate and postgraduate level in higher education, and I continue that, hopefully continue it.
Thanks for your question. I'm quite shocked at that stat, actually, as a young person. And I think for me, I'm immediately quite curious as to why. And I think we need to look at that and try and identify what's actually happening in that space, because that is by far not good enough. For me, there's a wider connection piece here, and we keep talking about young people, aging population, how are we going to be attracting them back to the island? And this could be a key, issue. If we solve it, we can start to actually bring that closer, make it more of a reality. So a bit like Steve, I do agree. Whatever we can do in order to not only attract people back, but support them in the jobs that the island needs over the next kind of 10, 20, 30, 40 years that aren't just finance. There's a lot of talk around growing the economy, trying to diversify that. So we need to really think hard about what that looks like. To your question, Melvin, obviously, sport is my bag, and I do want to lead in sports. One of the reasons why I'm running. However, I really care about keeping people accountable. And so far, my perception of government is that we haven't been accountable enough. So any position that I've got around scrutiny liaisons and, just trying to make sure that what we're doing, we're sticking to task and we're bringing ourselves to account more often than not.
On education, first of all, just a slightly wider point. Yes, of course, Jersey students should go off island for a couple of years if they can. But can we please remember that not all Jersey students can afford to? Not everyone's got a bank of mum and dad, and some of you will be well aware of your contribution from the bank of mum and dad to your children. So we need more education on island, both undergraduate and postgraduate. A little initiative the Policy Centre Jersey took. It offered 5 Jersey students the opportunity to do some research in their own time. And they've done it, and it's been really good, and it's given them some income. I may have misunderstood it, but I gather at one time there was a risk of the postgraduate money being first come, first served. If that was the case, that really is wrong. There has to be clear criteria, and they have to be followed. On the second question, I don't want to offend any of the ministers here by saying I want their job, including Kirsten. I believe that the Chief Minister should be absolutely free to choose a team of people who will work together. And that is the way I would put it. And if I get the call after the election, first of all, I need to be elected, and that's my focus at present. I'd be willing to serve wherever the Chief Minister thought I could make the best contribution to the team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicole, for the question. And normally when you get to the end of the row, you haven't got much to say, but I have plenty to say about this. During the 2014 election period, I was one of the founder members of the Student Loan Support Group. And I have followed what has been going on with the postgraduate bursary in particular very closely. There are people applying at the moment who have got offered places, who haven't got the postgraduate bursary, and have absolutely no mechanism of finding funding for those courses. We have a very unfair, uneven system. The volume of money for the postgraduate bursary has not been increased for very many years. Normally there is only a maximum of 10 students that get offered it. It's normally between £8,000 and £10,000, which is totally insufficient to fund a postgraduate course. I have a PhD in criminology. I've lectured at in higher education, and this simply has to stop. I think what is the most unfair, if you want to study a postgraduate qualification which will lead you to a professional qualification, you can access funding through the undergraduate pot. If you want to do a postgraduate qualification that doesn't lead to a professional qualification, you cannot. And that is unfair. It's unfair to our students. It's unfair to our graduates. And that really needs to be stopped. And I have said in my manifesto, introduce funding arrangements for postgraduate study which are fit for purpose.
I would have been quite interested to hear Deputy Miles' choice of job. We'll come back to that in a minute. Thank you for your question, Nicole. I was speaking to a single parent, actually, not so long ago, whose daughter was doing postgraduate a course in the UK. There are very few specific postgraduate bursaries, and they're difficult to get. There's not adequate resourcing, and I think there was no support from the government, because I think the government criteria is outdated. It's a situation that needs to be urgently reviewed, especially if we want talented islanders to return to Jersey. I think also we need to look at incentives to bring up young islanders back because of the cost of living, the cost of resettling here, the cost of housing. Whether that takes a form of tax relief, lower tax rates for a period of time to get settled, those are things we urgently need to address. It's been a huge honour to serve as Chief Minister, although a little spell on the backbenches feels quite enticing at the moment, because it's a very tough job. It depends what the Assembly wants me to do. I would be prepared to carry on in this job if the States Assembly wanted it. I think we need continuity. I want a representative government, representative of the Assembly, because better things happen when opponents choose respect and collaboration over rivalry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's everyone who's answered the questions. Okay, we've got time for 2 more. We're definitely going to come over to this side of the room. There is a lady in the green top who would like to ask a question, and I'll take one from the gentleman in the blue top at the very back.
Thank you. My name's Sarah Sleep. I live in St John. Some of you may have had this question from another parish. You will probably no doubt be aware of the funding struggles that Jersey Employment Trust recently had earlier in the year. So I just wanted to know whether you believe that the states have a duty to fund speciality employment support for disabled and disadvantaged islanders, and then a little bit of clarity on your answer. Thank you.
And the gentleman in the blue jumper at the back, thank you.
Good evening, my name's Andrew Frigo. I live a couple hundred yards that way. My question is about the cost of living in Jersey. Quite a few of you mentioned it in your manifestos and earlier on today. Obviously, one of the biggest problems, cost of living, is the cost of food. I think I read today that food has gone up something like 30% or more in the last 5 years in Jersey. My question really is this: what are you going to do to reduce the cost of living? Why do we not have French supermarkets over here, particularly given the difficulty with links to the UK via DFDS? And also, why do we not see the likes of Lidl, Aldi and all that? It feels a little bit like there's a certain amount of protectionism on the existing smaller supermarkets that we have. So basically, what are you going to do about the cost of living, particularly in food? Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Thank you very much. We'll start with Tom Binney.
Jersey Employment Trust and charities. I don't mind saying that I put in an awful lot of effort to avoid the disaster that happened with the Jersey Employment Trust. I don't think it was at all well handled, and I think that we should have carried on supporting them, and there's a lot more work that we could have done to avoid what I thought was a debacle. As far as other charities are concerned, I know in the health area we've just introduced a partnership board, and we've arranged that so that everybody that contributes to the health service actually gets a voice. That's something that hasn't happened before, and charities now have an elected representative on that board. So they don't get things done to them. They now play a part in actually defining how they're treated, and I'm hoping that's going to make a big difference going forward. In terms of cost of living, it's a difficult one. I think if anybody up here says they can solve it, it would be a lie. We live on an island. It's bound to be more expensive. If you take stuff to the south coast, you get it at one cost. When you put it on a boat, unload it and distribute it again, it adds cost. That's always going to be the case. The only thing I think that we can do, and the thing I want to focus on, is actually growing our economy and making the place richer. And that's one of the best ways from the top down of handling it. In terms of French supermarkets, the logistics of that are very, very difficult. You've got labelling problems and you've got system problems. I did have a business before that served every supermarket in the UK, and I know quite a lot about the logistical problems you get. Breaking into new logistics is difficult, and obviously the ferry service, you need stuff every day because of sell-by dates. So that's difficult. LG and Lidl, my understanding is that they've come to the island, they've had a look at it, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for them, it doesn't fit their business model. I haven't looked into it.
Sorry, Tom. I missed giving you the 30 seconds, my apologies. Thank you.
Right, let's get straight into supermarkets. Aldi and Lidl, they're cheap, aren't they? Do you know why they're cheap? Because they use a lot of processed food. They don't have cream in ice cream. They have all sorts of other different products. The whole business has changed and it's not as nice as it used to be. Retail is a dodgy area, and you're probably being poisoned more by your local supermarket than you are with PFAS in your drinking water. So let's take it easy before we start asking foreign supermarkets in. Tom has very brilliantly explained the issues with the French. I do think we should have better relations with the French, but one of the big problems is our civil servants don't speak very much French. And I would be very happy to not penalise them, but give some extra money to civil servants who can speak French, and let's use that ability to further our relationship with our cousins over the water. Now, as for the Jersey Employment Trust, look, I think disabled people should be given a fairer chance as anyone else. And if it costs money, it'll cost money. But here's the problem. We're all in this together in this little island. Unfortunately, the way the tax system works, no, we're not. The less well-off are going to get hit hardest by cost of living, and the people who are well-off will barely notice.
Funding for speciality groups is crucial. I don't think we should allow discrimination to thrive in this community, in any place. If disability is expensive and that's the reason why for any department or any group of persons in authority should not allocate resources for that group, that is clear discrimination, and I think that should be called out straight away. So I would be the kind of leader that would just pull up my neck for that, because I need to stand for everybody. And then the issue to do with budget supermarkets and food banks growing, and it's clearly poverty in Jersey, isn't it, guys? We don't talk about this. I think people are ashamed to say there is poverty in some. How are we going to address this poverty problem? You see, I think that the issue of cost is not about bringing the kind of supermarkets we are talking about. It's how much comes into our pocket. Because we have 3 people, for example. One person is earning 2,000, the other earning 5,000, and the third one is earning 10,000. The cost of living is going to affect the lower one. But the one that is earning 10,000 won't talk about cost of living. So it's just, let's get the jobs that employees are.
Thank you.
I think it's essential that we fund things like Jersey Employment Trust. I think every islander, regardless of their abilities, is entitled to work if they're able to do so, which means that they can earn their own money and have their own social mobility. I think that's imperative. Many years ago, I worked at the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, and we had quite a large group of individuals from Les Amis, and they contributed every day like all of us did, and I think that is really, really valuable for everyone in the island to be able to do that. In relation, I don't know sufficient about supermarkets, and I would obviously, in relation to them actually being able to come here. I think what concerns me is that would we get the same price as what they are in the UK, or would they increase their prices? I talk a lot about producing more on Ireland and exporting less, and I've been told that this is all past, but I don't believe that that's the case, and I actually genuinely believe that we should actually be looking to produce more food on Ireland across the piece and actually moving less of it overseas, and work together to be able to do that.
Sarah, yes, we should absolutely be properly funding organisations, charities that deliver services very efficiently and very effectively. The problem we've got is that we're wasting so much money in government, we haven't got the money to fund properly. So first of all, we need to sort out the waste of money and make sure that we're efficient as a government so that we can allocate properly funds where they need to go. There needs to be more funding going to the delivery end, which are the experts in the charitable sector, and I think less from government trying to do it and not doing it as well. And I think that balance is important to get right. As far as the supermarket is concerned, or the inflation and low-cost food, having a strong economy is clearly really important. Invest in our economy, remove barriers to business, remove red tape, bureaucracy and what have you, liberate businesses so that they have the confidence to invest and grow and employ people and create better salaries. It raises the standard and it offsets some of the issues that people face with regards to the cost of living. The cost of living, of course, most of it's imported, but government, when it gets bigger, adds to that burden. Having government too big is a cost as far as inflation is concerned. An anti-inflationary strategy, freezing government charges and fees, would be something I'd be very keen to do straight away until we seek to get this under control and make life a little bit easier and the island more affordable for islanders, because it clearly isn't at the moment. There's far too many people struggling. Supermarkets, I would talk about to people afterwards.
Thank you.
Yes, I think government does need to make sure that we have an inclusive community where everybody is able to work and contribute to society. I'm not sure about using the term duty, because we have to remember that there are very, very many charities out there providing very many essential services. And what I think is important is that we talk to charities carefully, that we agree what they're going to deliver, when they're going to deliver it, and just have some kind of clear understanding of what they're doing, what government's doing, and that we can fund it. And charities, of course, also there is a philanthropic element, so there is a part for the community to also play in supporting all these charities, whether that's donating or helping with events. But yes, we just need to make sure we talk to them properly and get that right, get those supports right. And I can't really explain what happened with Jet. It does sound a bit of it just all turned into a bit of a mess. French supermarket, Tom's talked about the logistics issues of getting French supermarkets. Some of those will exist with the likes of Aldi and Lidl. We do need to keep trying to get them here. We will need to have issues with finding them sites and all that kind of thing. But I do think we can persevere and get one of them here. I have a much more optimistic view of their produce than Guy. I think, having shopped in them in the UK, they do have some quite nice produce and some actually quite high-end produce. But in terms of cost of living, we have to target support as best we can, and that's making sure that we're income support's right, tax allowances. Thank you.
Thank you. Would it be possible for the microphone on this side to be passed up this end, please? If you could just pass the microphone back up here. I'm going to go to Helen afterwards. Yeah. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you. Yes, I've always supported Jersey Employment Trust. I think they do a fantastic job, and it was disappointing to me, like Tom. I was involved in a number of meetings to try and ensure they had their funding, and I'm pleased now that a commitment has been made. One of the problems that charities find is that the government has an annual budgeting process, and they need to be able to plan for more than 1 year at a time. So if we move the government process to a 3-year budgeting process, it will give certainty to charities, and they'll be able to plan and manage their budgets appropriately. During this particular job, I've been responsible for distributing over 4.5 million from the dormant bank account funds. I think that more actually can be distributed from that. We've created a new match funding scheme for charities and high net worth individuals as well to come from that fund. It's about partnership and it's about respect. Sometimes in government, I'm afraid to say, we think we can do things better. The truth is the charitable sector largely can do it better than we do. Cost of living, if you look in my manifesto, for the first time, I only try and put things in there that I think are actually realisable within a political term. For the first time, I've put in introduce a budget supermarket, because I absolutely think we can. It's not going to be easy. There are barriers to overcome, but it's going to be key in dealing with the rising cost of food, as well as all the local produce as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. Again, in my manifesto, I have said increase support for charities by making better use of the dormant bank account funds, and I echo everything that Ian has said. I was a founder member of Autism Jersey 20 years ago, and I sat on the board up until I became a States member. I should also say that I was totally horrified with what happened at Jet, not least because an adult member of my family attends Acorn every week, and that is a lifeline for him. What I would say is government doesn't only have a duty to support charities, they have a duty to listen, to respect, and to understand. And I think it is this failure to communicate and engage properly with charities that caused the problem with the Jersey Employment Trust. We need a proper commissioning framework, and we need to increase support for charities. What has happened as a result of the Jersey Employment Trust fiasco is that we now have charities who do not trust government, who are pulling back on their decisions because they know that they may have funding withdrawn. As we know, you put people at risk of redundancy. That is a situation that should never happen again, and I will champion that in the States Assembly. In terms of the supermarkets, I agree with everything that's been said. I think planning stands in the way. I think we need to free up some of the green zone for light industrial and warehousing and look at air freighting and transport.
I'm simply going to endorse what Helen has said on the Employment Trust. Looking at it as an observer, it looked pretty bad, the way it was handled. And again, somebody should say, well, how did we manage to handle that so badly, and can we avoid that in the future? I want to spend a bit more time on the cost of living issue. We know it's the biggest concern of the people of Jersey, and the reason is it's actually very difficult to do anything about. I don't favour tweaking the tax system. That simply shifts the burden from one lot of people to another. Growing the economy is vital. That will increase people's incomes. Yes, we may need targeted subsidies. I'm delighted you asked the question about a low-cost supermarket. It's purely by chance. Yesterday I wrote an article called A Low-Cost Supermarket for Jersey, available on LinkedIn. Send me an email, I'll send you a copy. I don't think the planning is necessarily a problem. Lidl and Aldi fit within what they want, fits within Jersey. The difficulty is that the profit they would expect to make, perhaps $500,000 a year, could well be totally absorbed by the additional costs. Between them, those two supermarkets have one outlet in the Scottish Islands, and Scotland is part of the United Kingdom, unlike Jersey. So it's not a question of bringing them in. They're not banging on the door. We need to be banging on their doors. Thank you.
Hi, Sarah. Yeah, so I started to learn about JET at the candidate fair when many, I'm sure, of your peers and colleagues who came around and they shared their story with me, and I was incredibly shocked. I think, I've worked in charities, multiple charities across my whole career from about the age of 18, and so I recognised the absolute vitality. They're so important, and we do need to continue to support them. I would certainly endorse not only continuing support, upping support, making you feel more listened to, heard as we move forward. Jersey Netball, we work very closely as well with BSK, and we see the incredible work that Gabby does with them. So if we want to be an inclusive community, let's put our money where our mouth is and make sure that we do it. Andrew, yeah, it's a great question. I'm a huge supporter of it. I think it does need to happen. There is a business case for it, and I think your article's brilliant, by the way. At the minute, we're paying £1.69 for milk. That's more expensive than petrol. So, we need to find quick ways to be able to keep more money in people's pockets, and I think a budget supermarket is the way to go.
Okay, shabby is the word that comes to mind, the way Jet was treated.
Bernard, can you hold that a bit closer to your mouth? Thank you.
Shabby. Is that working now? Yes, thank you. That's shabby. I'll keep saying it because that's what it was. And it was a failure of recognising that organisations like Jet don't just offer a commercial benefit, they offer benefits in health and the social connectivity. So I think that, and they're also part of something I keep repeating, the part of the Jersey brand, the kind of island we are, which is important for all sectors of the economy. In terms of Lidl and Aldi, I think it's going to be a challenge to get their model to work on the island. I personally, and I ask this kind of because I'm curious, I'd be much more interested in understanding where the VAT exempt advantage goes when VAT exempt goods are imported to the island. Does all that benefit accrue to the organisation, or is some of it able to be shared with customers? And so it's a simple question. I'm sure it has a simple answer. It just eludes me at the moment.
Regarding JET and organisations like Burisford Street Kitchen, they've certainly got my support. Years ago, I was a director of Oakfield Industries who supported people into employment and provided work opportunities. Regarding the cost of living, for over 16 years I was chairman of the Consumer Council, so I'm a bit of an expert on this. The supermarket take is about £200 million a year. Now that's not of interest to the big players. If you look, they're not here. Tesco, Asda, they're not interested in Jersey. And the reason for that is the stretch of water, the premises, the size of the market, and the catchment. If you look at Lidl and Aldi, they're looking for a catchment of about 500,000 people. We obviously haven't got that, so it's not quite as easy as some may tell you. The other thing is, we can reduce the cost of living by taking 5% off GST off food. And I've said that there. At the moment, GST is raising about £140 million a year. With more careful spending, the cost to do that would be about 10 million. But to most of us, that's about a £5 a week. And to some people, that is really worth doing. And the prediction is from farm to us, to the table. Food will increase by 10 to 12% a year because of the current climate of conflict, and that will feed through the rest of this year. And I think we could do something about it. 28 members voted against, and it's on the back there. You'll see who they are taking GST off food. Thank you.
Sarah, like everybody else, I was greatly relieved to see that the situation resolved. I've got a member of my family that benefits. But if I might just say generally that recent governments, not the one that we're serving in at the moment, but recent governments have been asking far too much of the third sector. A decision was taken some time ago by somebody that said, we're going to stop doing this and we'll ask charities to take over the responsibility. That's fine, but you've got to give charities money in order to provide those services. So we need long-term contracts, service level agreements with charities, so they have certainty about the amount of money they're receiving. Government have certainty about the services that are going to be provided. Charities are struggling at the moment, as I'm sure you will appreciate. The cost of living is meaning that their donations are becoming hard to find. And to deal with Andrew's question, I don't need to tell you, Andrew, about the cost of building materials, the price of borrowing money to develop property, things like that. But it's all driven by fuel at the moment, it's driven by energy. Food prices are being driven up by the cost of fertiliser, the cost of plastics. I've already said my answer. Part of it to the cost of living in Jersey is to ask farmers and fishermen to provide more crops and more cash for local consumption. I believe we can do much better in that. More money for those people who really need help, and we do that by asking more people to pay for the services they want. Polluter pays, user pays. If you're not using a service, why should you pay for it? But some of that extra money that government can receive should go to those that need it.
Thank you, Sarah. For the last 6 years, I've been doing my weekly constituency surgeries in Bursaries Street Kitchen, which does something not a million miles away from what Jet does. And I've seen firsthand the sense of fulfillment and belonging that it gives their clients and the way that they are celebrated when they eventually find employment elsewhere, not to mention the huge value added that that gives our whole community as well. So it is absolutely vital that government is supporting the third sector, and that's why it's mentioned in my manifesto that we need to improve the way that government works with charities. It's been mentioned before, having a proper commissioning framework, that would be good. We need to accept that annual grants is not a sustainable way for supporting organisations that are hopefully going to exist for a very long time, not just operating on a year-to-year basis. That means having proper contracts, service level agreements, and a reliable baseline that is properly uprated as and when. In terms of the cost of living, it's made up of lots of things, not just the cost of food. Rent, childcare are two huge expenses that we've tried to make progress on that recently. I have to say I'm not amazingly convinced that a new supermarket in Jersey would solve that, because I worry that it might end up squeezing out other supermarkets in Jersey. I hope I'm wrong on that, but if one wants to come over in Jersey, then we should absolutely be welcoming that. But two things I'd suggest as well. I agree with Alan, we need to take GST off of food. That's always been something that I've supported and voted for. And it's also worth promoting the Consumer Council's prices.je app, which is an amazing tool that not enough people know about.
Charities. I've been doing this for the last 10 years, helping to fund charities. That was my job. We should be doing multi-year funding with very clear outcomes linked to what is given. That's an absolute essential thing. Ideally, we need to be looking at moving into a 10-year cycle where we can actually see generational change. I would like to see organisations like JET, Beresford Street Kitchen, Autism Jersey, working together to develop a strategy that we can get behind as a community to support these people. That is the best way to do it. Let's get together and actually communicate with them. It's very easy to chat to them. They're really open and friendly. Cost of living, oh my goodness. Well, most of that's down to our supply chain. It's huge. It goes, if you want to buy strawberries, even at the co-op, they come from Spain, and that seems ridiculous, all up there, and then comes all the way back down across the channel when we've got a little bit of sea between us and France. I know this might sound a bit ridiculous, but Normandy trader can carry 80 tons of cargo. Jersey, as a population, we need about 40 tons of fresh fruit and veg a day to feed the population. There's got to be a better way of linking to the continent and getting our supplies from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was reading a report earlier today about UK food prices, which some reports are suggesting have increased by 50% since 2021, or 11% when you take into account wage inflation. The vast majority of our inflation is imported due to geopolitical challenges at the moment, it's making it worse. But we can take action to lessen the burden of that. I've set out some examples in my manifesto. We have to have more competition in the food retail market. We are well served. For the avoidance of doubt, a discount supermarket would be welcome here. If they want to come, there will be no barriers from Jersey for that. In relation to JET, when an impasse was reached, it found its way onto my desk. We had some useful meetings. Situation was resolved for 2026. I recently wrote to the JET board again, confirming, put my neck on the block and said I've confirmed their budget for 2027. That will, of course, depend on the next States Assembly approving it in the budget, which I hope they will. We need to work more closely with charities. We need to consult them. We need to give them longer term funding. And if anything, we need to pass some of the work on that we do to them, because they tend to be better at delivering it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all of the questions and thank you for all the answers. Carl, did you have a go at this one? Sorry, we have one more. My apologies. Here we go. Carl.
I think I've got an answer to these two questions in one simple way, and that is social enterprise. I think social enterprise would work very, very well with the JET model. We are running an activity social inclusion project, Step 55. I have one of my colleagues here with us in the hall at the moment, and we are empowering individuals with experience and skills to share those with the community. With our situation with Step 55, we're connecting with 200 adults here on the island. We're providing them a minimum of 1 hour's exercise per week. That is saving the health budget possibly up to £200,000 per year. If you then connect with 2,000 adults doing the required amount of activity per year through structure from government and funding, then that will save the possibly up to something like 4 million on the health budget. If you're making savings like that, then you can address cost of living. So if you've then got cash in the bank, then you can proportion it to the more concerning requirements that are coming in. And I think we can, if we address things from a social entrepreneurial point of view, it takes the pressure off charities.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Well, that does bring us to a close. Thank you very much, everybody, for all of your questions, and thank you to the candidates for all of their answers and their speeches this evening. I do realise that we weren't able to get to everybody this evening, so if you would like to email any of your questions, please do so. You can find all of the candidates' details on the vote.je website. Just a couple of things to mention about the election. Postal votes need to be received by the GREF, please. That's the GREF by 12 noon on Sunday, the 7th of June. If you're going away, if you're going to be on holiday, please still vote. You can go early to do that at St Paul's Centre in St Helier between the 26th of May and the 1st of June. As we know, Election Day is Sunday, the 7th of June, and polling stations are going to be open from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening. Please do remember to take your photo ID with you. You can get all the information that you need on the vote.je website. Just before we finish, I'm going to hand over to Steve Luce. It is customary for one of the candidates to say a few thank yous at the end. So hopefully you've got the microphone there, Steve.
Thanks, Hannah. On behalf of the candidates, on behalf of yourselves, can I thank Hannah for keeping us under control this evening?
Just about. Thank you.
And can I thank the constable and the team at the Parish Hall here for setting the hall out so marvellously. And finally, can I just say on behalf of the candidates, thank you very much for coming out on such a blustery evening and for your excellent questions. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and good night. Thank you.